Hey everyone, Travis aka T Smolla here. I wanted to do something different for Geocaching HQ Appreciation Week that the Geocaching Vlogger announced earlier this week. I won't go through all the details on how you can send your love to geocaching.com because I think a lot of other big channels already have that covered. So instead, I'm just going to tell a story because it was something that Joshua recommended we do. And it's a bit heavy, it's a bit long, but I'm telling it for two reasons. One, to hopefully help out others who are in this situation because it's a really rough thing to go through. And two, just to show all the lackeys at Geocaching HQ what an incredible impact geocaching has had on my life. So we have to go all the way back to September 2005. That was when I just discovered geocaching. I was running around Southwest Michigan with an old school blue Garmin E-Trex Legend. You know, no maps, no routing, no cache information in it whatsoever. This was when people were still printing out cache information or putting it in notebooks by hand. There were no phone apps or GPS units capable of storing cache info. Overall, there was just a greater learning curve to the game than there is now. Sometimes I look back at that time and I wonder how I found anything at all. The first month and a half was awesome. It was so exciting to find something that someone had placed out there for me to find. But more than that, I loved how it was helping me discover new places close to home that I never knew existed before. And more than that, I was rediscovering places that I had not visited in years. One of those places was Russ Forest County Park. This park was just a couple miles from home for me at the time, yet I hadn't been there in almost a decade. The last time I visited was when I was very, very young, and we spent a lot of time there with friends and family. So I mentioned geocaching one day to my younger, only brother Charlie, and I asked him if he wanted to go sometime. He said, "Yeah, that sounds interesting." He was always up for an adventure, but for whatever reason that I can't remember, we never did go. Little did I know when I woke up that morning that this was going to be the worst day of my life. It was a perfectly normal, beautiful day for early November. It was sunny, not a cloud in the sky. It was slightly warm for that time of year. I went to class. Afterwards, I even looked for a geocache. Ended up with a DNF, but eventually it got dark and I started heading home. I thought it was kind of strange that no one was picking up when I called home. I couldn't explain it, but I had a weird feeling about it. I ended up just pushing it out of my head and I kept driving. About 10 minutes later, my mom calls me from her cell phone and she's clearly distraught. And she tells me that Charlie was in a car accident. He was on his way home and he got T-boned by an SUV. Less than a mile from home. So, of course, my first question is he alright? And there was a pause, and I'll never forget her answer. She simply said, "No." Loss is it's a tricky thing, and I've come to learn that the way it affects you is directly tied to how it happens. I handled losing friends and co-workers and even my grandparents, but losing my brother was an entirely different animal. You know, my grandmother and my grandfather, they both lived rich, full lives before they passed, but Charlie, he was only 18 years old and he was still in high school. He never got to experience life. Makes it even harder when everyone expects you to move on immediately, but this is a situation where you can't. It's not that simple. Losing a loved one so young and in such a traumatic fashion, it fundamentally changes you. There are a lot of what-ifs that run through your head after something like this. You sit there asking yourself how you could have prevented it. I can't recall how many times I flashed back to that last morning, the last time I saw him alive. I really wish I'd just said to him, "Come on, dude, let's skip school and go do something fun." He would have been down for it in a heartbeat. You can't change the past, but you can't help but think about it leads to a lot of anger, both at yourself and just at the world in general. You wonder about the senselessness of it. Why? What did my brother do to deserve this? What did I do to deserve this? What did my family do to deserve this? In the end, the thing I found was that the best thing you can do while grieving is to find a distraction to take your mind off it. Otherwise, you just sit there going crazy thinking about the what-ifs. And for me, that distraction was geocaching. After doing this for 14 years and finding nearly 16,000 geocaches, it's easy to forget a lot of the finds you make in a given year. But when I go back to my profile and look at 2006, it amazes me how many of those geocaches I remember in vivid detail. I remember the little things. I can remember the weather. I can remember the drive. I remember the container. Those finds are forever seared into my mind because, unlike any of the other years I've geocached, these were the ones that got me through the toughest of times. The day after Charlie's funeral, I had to get away from it all, so I went back to Russ Forest because it was one of his favorite places in the whole world. I had bought an ammo kit and I was planning to hide it out there anyway, so I figured, now was as good a time as any. So I walked back as far as I could and I found a perfect spot next to the creek where he would have loved for this hide. And I made it a tribute cache, and I'm proud to say that it's still active to this day. When I got back to the parking area, I noticed a pickup with geocaching stickered in the window. At this point, other than some email exchanges, I hadn't met another cacher in person. So I walked to where I figured this guy would be heading, and sure enough, I caught up with him. And it was a well-known geocacher here in Michigan named Tom, aka Cyclops. I went and introduced myself, and we had a nice 15-minute conversation about geocaching. I don't know if he knows how much that conversation meant to me. For just a few minutes, I was able to forget all about my grief. Later, when the cache published, to my surprise, I got several emails from locals who I hadn't even met yet. And they were giving me condolences for my loss, and I was just shocked by this. I kept thinking, you don't even know me. But they took the time out of their day to say something nice. It really speaks to the character of many of the people who geocache, that they would do something like this for a total stranger. It would have been very easy for me to just get completely mired in grief that first year, but I always found something geocaching related to help as a distraction, whether that was finding my first puzzle cache, or finding my first 3-star find, or even just finding a place for my next hide. I don't think the pain from the loss of my brother will ever go away completely, but I do know that thanks to geocaching, it doesn't hurt as much. Geocaching is a pretty niche hobby, but it's one that wouldn't exist without Groundspeak acting as the glue to hold it all together. I've made so many friends from this community, and I've seen so many amazing places. This hobby brings together people who otherwise wouldn't have anything in common, and it brings out the absolute best in them. I think a lot of the world's problems could be solved if we were all just geocachers. That's a credit to the staff at Geocaching HQ, and I'm proud to be a part of this community. I really shudder to think where I would be at in life right now if it wasn't for geocaching. It didn't just help me through the grieving process, but it opened me to new experiences and it made me a better person overall. I could probably sit here all day long and name all the things that geocaching has done for me. So until I finally make my way out to Seattle and thank all the lackeys in person, let me just simply thank you right now from the bottom of my heart for all your hard work and for 14 awesome years. And I'm looking forward to many, many